Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Propagandacast Shadowverse episode. The second one. The first one seems to be received reasonably well, so that's all nice and dandy. Apparently some were not happy with the voicing sort of in the game. Which is not... I don't know. I mean, I could disable it, but I mean, there's only like one or two complaining and the rest doesn't really seem to mind it, so I think I'll stick it, otherwise I do fear it could become a bit of a sterile experience, which is, I don't know, not entirely, shall we say, fun. But otherwise, I mean, there's sort of comments in here, and there's sort of no specific topics they'd like to see, say, for the next sort of video discussed. But, you know, there were a few comments like RNG. And for RNG, well, I don't know. Having played Hearthstone, the RNG in Shadowverse is nothing. I mean, most of it's very much within the realm of the controllable, like, you know, cards. I mean, the more cards you put in, the more like or versions of one card you put in, the more like you actually, for example, draw it, so you can sort of manage it through that. And the other RNG sort of also falls in with, you know, the control, like, you know, it's like 1 out of like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you know, either 50-50, you know, 40-40, 30-30, 20-20%, you know, something happening, for example. So in that regard, the whole RNG aspect isn't exactly something that's, you know, much. Then it's going first and second. In that regard, you know, tend to sort of favour, you know, in many cases, the one going second, depending on the deck, unless it's a very aggro deck. But that's sort of the fun thing, in fact. That's due to basically, for a long part, the one who actually went first had the biggest advantage, so they basically tried adding another evolution point, and then added another card. At that point, it sort of went well. The thing is, though, for some decks now, there's a really big advantage. They simply gain so many resources, and can sort of pull it off. In particular, the current Tempo Daria, or Tempo Rune, rather benefits from a lot, because there's a card to sort of work off evolution and just gain many big effects with it, which is rather a problem. So, I mean, if you got, for example, that one, you'd rather want to go second because you're likely to demand them extra resources, which is rather what you want. I mean, your win chance will, I think, generally improve by in most cases about 10 to 20%, which is generally good. And for example, some control decks as well rather benefit from it as well, quite a bit there. So I've also updated the deck a bit here, though I might change that soon again. Basically, in this case, I removed the Thieves here for an extra Navy Lieutenant, extra Ascetic Knight, basically for extra defense, but also, you know, extra sort of tokens sort of fill the board with. I'm slightly considering adding in some other deck cards instead, since, well, the meta sort of swiftly headed into sort of more, sort of can't play there, sort of been a lot more slow, a lot more controlled, in which case, I in theory could consider at least briefly replacing the Navy Lieutenant with the Fencer, something else allowing me to push for more damage, rather than just, you know, setting up defenses, which can work with some decks, but again, with the increasing control decks, I don't know. And the control decks largely just response largely to control or aggro blood and Tempo Daria. So in that regard, the meta is sort of increasingly being a bit more, shall we say, polarized. I have to go really fast, I have to go really slow. Like, anything in between is increasingly just not quite good enough, which I do think is one of the potentially bigger issues here with Rise of Bahamut. I mean, if they sort of get around, and I hope they get around into perhaps an thing Tempo Daria a bit, that might be sort of, you know, overall, well, more cohesion sort of added in the meta game. But we'll have to see how that works out. We'll have to see how that works out. And then also someone asked me about why I don't use a certain card. Well, I'll show the card just to sort of make it a bit easier. Got a huge collection, so we use all this to sort out. And this, specifically this one, Sea Queen Otahime. You know, theoretically a very nice card. You can basically fill your entire board with these 1-2 officers, which is pretty good when you only pay 6 for it. I mean, you get a lot of value. But the problem is, it's a 6 play points. And currently, again, sort of for some of the reasons mentioned there, you kind of want to be doing a lot more before that point. If you sort of have to get back with that one, I kind of sort of feel like you're already in trouble and sort of want to switch over to something else. So in that regard, I don't think it's very viable at the moment. I mean, most players have sort of dropped it, in part because, again, just Daria, but also just others, you know, all the board clears, and then you sort of, for example, go off quickly with a, you know, Seraph right after, and that sort of creates some problems. Again, the sort of meta game is being polarized, and sort of means a lot of the sort of mid-game elements are rather, unless they can sort of do a lot of damage very quickly, like Albert Levin Saber here, it tends to not be that good. I mean, it needs to be able to do a lot of damage quick. In that regard, there's another card that sort of, for example here, it is usage. For example, this fella here, the Fang Blade Slayer, doesn't do a lot of damage theoretically, but what it can do is it can clear a lot of followers and do damage at the same time to the enemy follower or leader. Plus, he's rather tough, so he's a sneaky follower in that sense. For example, a lot of other sort of cards have sort of dropped up. For example, Leonidas, Doesn't see as much play at all. I don't even know if that one sees some usage anymore. There's a lot of cards there I think that sort of dropped off to an extent there. I mean, this one still sees because, well, he's pretty good. So that's sort of some considerations there. And again, my deck is sort of tempo. It tries to be aggressive. You know, it tries to play in there. I mean, again, sort of bring up here again because you see the curve. It sort of again tries to get in there early on. You know, get in the damage, build up the board, and then sort of either, you know, play out an enraged general and something else that's to further push in there. So that's rather also another reason. Now, part of me is also considering maybe replacing Legenda. I mean, he's in theory good, but again, with the current meta game, he's sort of running into some issues. In theory, also Monarchy. Again, pretty good, but the way things are sort of going out, there might be some changes there depending on sort of how things go. In which case, of course, the question is what's going to be Wind God or something else maybe there. Who knows? Who knows? As for that one, less sure. So I think it sort of covers sort of the initial bit here, you know, some of my thoughts here on the meta game and sort of other bits. A bit sort of more of a random using some answers there to people who ask questions here and there on Reddit and in the comment section to my previous video. And of course, feel free to ask questions if there's something you'd like to know, some thoughts, and so on. And of course, there's some more specific topic you'd like to maybe see discuss. You know, I'll try to go into that. But anyways, we'll get on to the fights now. So, see you in a bit. And here we are in the dungeons versus bloodcraft. Oh. And I get to go second. That's not good. Again, versus bloodcraft. Again, that's pretty much the only deck you want to go first against. That is pretty much the only deck. Also, fun fact, I always seem to end up with 3-drops more than anything on my hand. They're not the most popular sort of my drops. Against Swordcraft, I have 11 2-drops, but by all that is sacred, I always seem to end up with an awful lot of 3-drops in my hand. I'm not sure why or how, but that's just how it is. Please don't play Urius. Thank the heavens. He's just going in aggressively there, pushing my face in as much as possible. I'll do this to sort of just kill that one, so he can't do more damage. He seems to have a bit of a rubbish hand though, so that one's working out for me so far. That sucks for him. I can easily counter that one, just play out something on the board. I'll play Pompous Princess because what she does is she summons a 1-drop, meaning you basically thin out your deck from all of them. So you can, that way you get a bunch of 1-drops in to have a good start, increase the chances, and then you can sort of use her to thin out the deck as well. So in that regard, she's pretty handy. Ascetic Knight, though, is sort of good for other things, also just playing out a lot there. Again, I just want to increase the chances on turn 3 of getting an awful lot of things. But right now, I'm having a surprisingly good fight here. So far. Things can easily change. Vania Vampire Princess. We got Summon Luck in there going off. I'll floral fence that because it's just going to be great to fill the board with the Knight and Steelclad Knight, in which case I'll trade into that one. In this case, I'm basically taking out all the bats to avoid them comboing with anything. Since Aggro Blood loves comboing its bats. So we hit here. That way I also preserve life. I mean, if it's going to lose the Pompous Princess, might as well use it to sort of preserve the life of my more valuable things so they aren't so easily killed. But also, if I then get a Naval Lieutenant, I can play him down and, you know, create a pretty big wall of bodies. There we go. In this case, though, got hit with that. We get the... No, we did not. Might as well do that one again. Further thinning out the deck. In this case, getting a quick Blader. I'll evolve him in case he has Demonic Storm. So bring him down to 8. Which means he can't easily just Demonic Storm because it leaves him further vulnerable to anything really from me. Now we got Urius. Curse Brand. Which, by the way, gets a small buff there. So there you go, he's basically thrown it all in. Not sure why. I guess he first got him now, as he probably played it sooner. And with this, I think I won. I basically got here 5 damage. I play down the Sage Commander to boost it. And I win. So that went surprisingly easily. That was just him getting a rather rubbish hand, really. So that was a rather easy fight there. On to the next. And we're off here. Swordcraft. I go second again. It's pretty advantageous. I think I'll stick to these. That one's good for drawing another one. Oathless Knight, good to play in turn 2. And Navy Lieutenant can easily allow him to form up a barrier if he turns out to be sort of aggressive. But he could also turn up to control, in which case I'll also have the advantage. Nope, that's not control. That is not control. Oh dear, that's less good though. No one drop. Huh. What could this be? I have no idea what's going on here. I think I'll just do this. Wait for the next turn, take out the primary damage dealer there. I'm guessing it's some kind of aggressive swordcraft. Huh? Yeah? I've got no idea about this, to be honest, at this point. I am lost. Might as well sacrifice these in here. He's been able to do a lot of damage into all these wards and the likes, and again, me not getting one drop off sort of counter his, but heavens. That's definitely got to be one of the weirder decks I've yet to see. It's absolutely got to be one of the weirdest. So what do we do here? I think what we will do is pop down the maid leader and then get the Navy Lieutenant to turn it into a ward. And then we hit his face for 5 damage. That way he has to evolve something into that. Well, he has to use that one, obviously. Oh, oh dear, Cyclone Blade. Nasty one there. And what was a surprise? Well, this one is definitely an enigma. That one is definitely an enigma. Oh dear, I might actually be in a lot of trouble here. I don't have any ways of immediately dealing with it. My best hope is to deploy something here that might just give it enough grief. That's a weird deck though. I guess some kind of control deck, it's just so weird. And I got in this one soon, I would have been better off I think, but oh well. So weird though, and there's not really much you can do about it. I mean, you can basically almost evolve there. It gets anything with Storm right now, I'm dead. Oh! Next fight. Oh no, runecraft. Now I get to go first. And I get, again, It's always something with 3 drops. I'm not entirely sure why. I can be guaranteed to get 3 drops almost no matter what. But 2 drops? Nah. So weird. So absolutely weird. I just don't get it. Well, no son of the enraged general, which is rather what one hopes for at this point. Levi out, which tends to mean either this guy is not very good, of course that's a big mistake to play out soon enough, or he's got another one in his hand, which is what I'm more inclined to believe. He's basically trying to go for the value trade here. Problem is that doesn't particularly help when it comes to a lot of things. So I'm not entirely sure what you anticipated that would achieve for him, but right now we basically enter turn 4 again. Tempo Dyer is the one with a huge advantage going second. And this is again where then gets interesting. And there you go, that's basically why no one likes it. On turn 4 he's just played out pretty much his entire hand. And I'm somehow expected to be able to deal with that. I'm sure some of you can see where there might be an issue here. Basically they sort of created too much synergy. It's sort of the shorter version. It's not all lost here. I mean, again, he went for that kind of trade, so I can actually clear that one pretty quickly. Again, he wasn't able to set up the board very well. I mean, if that's a dagger, though, in his hand there, I'm very dead. Because then he can just refill his hand and just play out a ton more. But if not, not too badly off. I'm going to use the quick blade instead to at least clear up one of those. And there we go. Some kind of control established here. Some kind. Holy moly, he did not actually. I think he's just going to go for my face here. I mean, he could also try and clear out the board, obviously. Kinda hope he goes for face here. I mean, I'd take 8 damage, just... I could then pop Sage Command and murder him, but no. He decides to be not a complete idiot and actually clear my board. Which is not entirely in my favour, but oh well. I'll play... I could go for Al, but I'd rather see him up there for later. Instead I'll pop this combo here. Not the best one, but... gives me a bit more board presence. At least force him to play something into that. Unless I had just played Al, but he could just, do a lot more damage to me directly. This, as you might notice, forces him to react to that. And then I can play Albert. If I wanted to, or in this case, Oathless Knights. Then Albert. So there we go. In this case, misplay from our opponent here for starters. Should have played Levi on turn 4 instead of just playing it too fast there. But also in this case, a bit poor luck not getting Daria, which is also known as pretty damn good luck for anyone else. Pretty damn good luck. There we go. Down to 5. Conjure Golem. He can't clear up the board, and there we go. We win. That's actually a surprisingly rare win against this kind of deck. Very rare. Very rare. I mean, generally, again, if at that point that had been a Dead pulled in there, which would just draw him 5 cards and then spell boost them 5 times, it could have been dead. But without it, it isn't quite as strong. Plus that misplay there with Levi That was also huge because when evolved, he is very much a nasty card. He sort of breaks the rules on tempo evolves, if you will. He breaks the rules and he breaks them hard. I can explain a bit there. So yeah, I think we shall halt here and actually sort of display it there. Sort of 3 fights I think sort of good there. Sort of short, get some fights in, and daily bonuses again. Just some gold, I believe. Sometime before we get the arena ticket. There you go. They also, by the way, around New Year's gave out a lot of gold as well this way. As daily bonuses. I think roughly 1,000 or something like that. So I mean, just sort of brief look at Levi, who is very much a contentious card for runecraft alongside another card. Well, he's actually a 2-drop. Don't mind. But we do it like this. So there you go. Time 1 Mage Levi. Basically, most things, you know, when they do something extra when evolved, they usually sort of get stats lowered. Levi does not. He puts in a Crimson Sorcery, which is 1 play point spell, which can deal 3 damage to an enemy, including the leader. Which already means he's rather sort of breaking a few rules there. Most of these can also deal the leader or whatever they do. Further on, this spell, of course, spell boosts. That's the thing with runecraft. Whenever they cast a spell, that spell boosts. So, in that regard, it becomes a 4/4. You can deal 3 damage and spell boosts. That's a lot of effects in one go, and again, he gets full stats. I mean, compared to most others, you know, take a drop in stats, or they don't even sort of get more stats from it. But then, of course, the tricky bit is the next thing that happens is because they also created this one here with the latest expansion, which becomes a 1 play point spell if there's something evolved, and can then do 2 damage to the follower, and then 2 damage to the leader. So there's a bit there in, shall we say, overperformance and too much synergy. That's sort of bit the problem here, and why it is very much one of the most played decks, and why it's not very popular at the moment for very understandable reasons. So far there's not been much word from the developers, except from a community manager that they are gathering feedback on it. And well, I imagine looking at the stats so far we can sort of see that there's a lot going on there. But there you go, 2 losses, well, 2 wins, 1 loss. Of course, 2 losses for opponents, 1 win for opponents. That was one weird swordcraft deck. I guess sort of a control deck there that rather threw me off. But oh well, nothing to do about that. Nothing to do about that. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed today's little episode here. Had some fun with it. And sort of gotten a more appreciation here for the token tempo deck. Again, I rather like it. And again, you don't always get to play out the enraged general. When you do, there's usually a bit of an effect there. I rather like him. They're sort of, it sort of just creates something there. Partially it's just thought it up because when I sort of saw all the board clears doing the initial announcements, I kind of realised usual swordcraft is not going to work. So I'm going to have to look to sort of one of the advantages, which, you know, it's a lot of tokens, and then trying to utilise those. The thing is, they didn't actually add a lot of deck cards that always play into that with the expansion. You basically got this one, and that's it, which kind of makes it a bit awkward. But go figure. And otherwise, I'm actually largely utilising vanilla cards. Again, utilising very few cards from the previous expansion. There's pretty much this one. That's it. In fact, one thing to consider is a lot of the cards they sort of released for swordcraft in the last 2 previous expansions have not really sort of worked heavily with the actual mechanics of the deck. There's sort of been good cards, but they haven't really worked specifically with it. I mean, you got this one can sort of create tokens when enhanced, but you know, there's a bit few things lacking there. But enough going off the trails there. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you didn't subscribe, like, share, and comment on it. And of course, you know, feedback is appreciated. And of course, there's something again, Tommy, you'd like to see me talk about. You know, we'll have a go at that. But this is Imperial Dane signing off, and see you all another time. Cheers.